The chamber of the Galactic Accord was vast enough to fit the spires of a city. Its vaulted ceilings shimmered with holographic constellations, each star marked by shifting colors of war. More and more burned red. Representatives of 70 species filled tiered platforms that curved around the central dais. Some hissed, some muttered, some sat in heavy silence. Their faces, scaled, feathered, chitinous, watched the holomap with dread as entire sectors blinked out one after another. The Dominion had been advancing for half a century. Every strategy, every coalition fleet, every desperate countermeasure had only slowed the inevitable. Entire worlds lay in ruins. The Accord was running out of soldiers, ships, and time. For the first time in history, they had called upon humanity. The doors hissed open. A line of human officers strode in, uniforms stark, movements precise, no ornamentation. Their leader, Admiral Elena Varga, walked ahead without hesitation. She was not tall compared to the insectoid or reptilian delegates, but the room seemed to tighten around her presence. Dark eyes scanned the chamber once, cool and unflinching. She did not bow. She did not pause. She stopped in the circle of light at the center, hands clasped behind her back. Whispers rippled across the tiers. The barbarians. Children of nuclear fire. Desperate measures indeed. The Accord speaker, a silver-skinned being of the Cyril, lifted a hand. Admiral Varga of Earth. We thank your people for heeding our summons. The Accord requires reinforcements. Your fleets may bolster our defenses. Varga's voice cut across the chamber. Low. Precise. No. Silence. Her gaze swept the holographic map above her, lines of Dominion red bleeding into shrinking patches of Accord blue. You haven't asked for reinforcements. You've asked for survival. And survival will not come by bleeding slowly until the last system falls. The chamber stirred with agitation. An avian delegate rose, feathers bristling. You presume too much, human. We have fought this war for generations. Generations of losing, Varga said, her tone unchanged. You've fought politely. You've fought honorably. The Dominion doesn't care about your rules. That's why they're winning. Another voice, guttural and booming, rumbled from the opposite tier. A scaled warlord of the Othrak bared his fangs. You suggest we abandon our codes? Our ancestors bound us against annihilation campaigns for good reason. Varga turned toward him. Your ancestors never faced extinction at the hands of the Dominion. We have. On our world, war was never ceremonial. We learned early, mercy has a cost, and the dead don't repay it. A sharp intake of breath spread across the tiers. The speaker of the Accord leaned forward. Admiral, then what do you propose? Reinforcement is all we ask. You asked the wrong species if that's all you want. Varga lifted her hand. The map flickered. New lines appeared, slicing through the Dominion's strongholds. We end this war in 5 hours. The chamber erupted. Voices overlapped in alarm. Impossible. Madness. Genocide. Varga waited. She had expected the uproar. Only when the echo subsided did she speak again. Our plan is simple. Simultaneous FTL micro jumps across Dominion space. Strike fleets hit command hubs and logistics arteries. Autonomous drones saturate orbital defenses. Shock battalions cripple their platforms. By the 4th hour, their fleet is gone. By the 5th, their capital world is encircled. The avian delegate's beak clicked sharply. You would slaughter civilians. Varga's reply was ice. No. I would decapitate leadership, destroy infrastructure, and end their capacity to wage war. That is not slaughter. It is conclusion. The insectoid representative of the Kshar shifted uneasily. Our fleets are not trained for such speed. You don't need to be, Varga said. Your fleets hold the perimeter. Ours will cut out the heart. Another burst of protests filled the air. Words like dishonor, reckless, unthinkable echoed against the chamber walls. Yet beneath it all pulsed something new, fear, not of the Dominion, but of humanity. Finally, a deep, resonant voice silenced the noise. The elder of the Tool, whose people had lost half their systems to Dominion firestorms, leaned forward on trembling limbs. And if you fail, human? If your audacity breaks against their strength? Varga met his gaze. Then Earth burns with you. We've accepted that risk. Have you? The chamber froze. No one answered. She pressed the advantage. You've spent 50 years dying by inches. I'm offering you hours to win. Not cleanly. Not honorably. But decisively. Choose. The silence stretched long. Delegates glanced at one another, waiting for someone to speak first. The Accord had never moved quickly. Debate was their habit. Compromise their instinct. But compromise had brought them here, to the edge of defeat. The speaker finally rose. His silver features were grave. We cannot decide as one voice. We must vote. Light flared across the tiers as each delegate pressed their decision into the chamber's system. One by one, sigils lit, green for assent, red for refusal. The first few votes were red. Then green. Then more green. The tide shifted. By the time the last delegate cast their mark, the result was clear. Humanity had been given command. The map shifted again, showing Varga's projected strike routes, burning across Dominion space like lightning. The speaker's voice trembled as he declared, By the authority of the Accord, operational command is granted to Admiral Elena Varga of Earth. All eyes turned to the human in the circle. She stood unmoving, unreadable. Then, with the faintest edge of steel in her voice, she said, Prepare your fleets. At dawn cycle, the war ends. The hangar of the UNS Resolute thrummed with energy. Engineers moved like a single organism, swarming over the hulls of drones and strike craft. Weapons bays glowed under diagnostic beams, rail cannons clicked as systems calibrated. The human fleet looked small compared to the Accord armadas, but it carried a precision that unsettled even its allies. From the observation deck, Admiral Elena Varga watched it all without expression. She had no patience for spectacle. Efficiency was its own reassurance. A chittering voice broke the silence beside her. Admiral Kshar of the insected species shifted uneasily, mandibles twitching. Your numbers are insufficient. Barely 300 capital ships. The Dominion deploys thousands. Varga's eyes stayed on the hangar. Quantity doesn't win wars. Timing does. Another alien spoke, this one a feathered tactician from the Relin. Your reliance on automation is dangerous. Machines make mistakes. Varga finally turned. Her tone was flat. So do people. But our machines don't hesitate, don't question, and don't waste time in debate. The Relin looked away, feathers flattening. A human officer approached with a data pad. Fleet is ready, Admiral. Strike groups on standby for jump orders. Varga nodded once. Signal all commands. 5-hour countdown begins now. Hour 1. The Dominion's patrol fleet never saw them coming. In less than a blink, humanity's warships blinked into existence around them, emerging from microjumps like ghosts tearing holes in space. Before the Dominion commanders could orient themselves, swarms of autonomous hunter-killer drones poured from human carriers, weaving between ships with surgical precision. Rail slugs punched through armor. EMP bursts shredded communication arrays. Missiles did not arc wildly, they threaded through gaps at impossible angles, as if guided by instinct. On the bridge of the Resolute, data streamed across the holomap. Enemy vessels winked out one after another. First patrol neutralized, reported Commander Hale. His voice was calm, almost bored. Varga only asked, Losses? 2 drones. No ships. Across the command channel, an alien admiral blurted in disbelief. You destroyed 1,000 vessels in under 10 minutes. Varga's reply was razor thin. We wasted 2. The channel fell silent. Hour 2. Word of the sudden strike spread through Dominion networks, but Varga was already ahead. She had mapped their response patterns, predicted every contingency. While Accord fleets held the perimeter, humanity carved through enemy supply lines. Shipyards fell within minutes, bombarded from orbit until molten slag drifted where stations had been. Fuel depots ruptured, their explosions lighting entire skies. From the Accord command ship, alien observers watched with growing unease. The devastation was total, clean, and merciless. The Cyril speaker contacted Varga directly. His face flickered on her holoscreen, silver features tight with dismay. "Admiral, your tactics are effective," she interrupted. "Brutal. There are codes." Varga cut the feed. "Codes don't win wars." Her officers exchanged glances but said nothing. They knew her stance. The only law was survival. Hour 3. The Dominion counterattack came exactly when she expected it. Hundreds of warships surged from hyperspace in a wedge formation, their massive hulls blotting out the stars. They were larger, heavier, designed to intimidate with sheer bulk. Varga did not flinch. She had laid the trap hours ago. "Mines armed," Hale reported. "Detonate." Space itself erupted. Thousands of dormant mines, seated in precise grids, came alive in cascading waves. The Dominion fleet plunged straight into the storm. Explosions tore through their formation. Fractured vessels collided with each other in blind panic. Human railguns opened fire, shredding survivors before they could regroup. In minutes, what had been a wall of steel was reduced to drifting wreckage. Across open frequencies, Dominion commanders broadcast threats and propaganda, promising Earth's destruction. Their voices were desperate, more bark than bite. Varga's communications officer glanced at her. "Do we jam them?" "No," she said. "Amplify them." Confused, he obeyed. The broadcasts went out not just to Accord fleets, but to every channel across the theater. Then she gave her order. "Now send the casualty count." Her officer hesitated. "All of it?" "Every number. Every wreck. Broadcast their failure as loudly as they broadcast their lies." Within minutes, Dominion soldiers across the front saw the truth: fleets annihilated, shipyards destroyed, commanders dead. The psychological blade cut deeper than any weapon. Hour 4. Alien fleets that had been watching from the sidelines were now divided. Some cheered humanity's efficiency, others whispered in terror. The Kshar admiral returned to Varga's side, mandibles clattering nervously. "You fight like predators. Even the Dominion hesitates at such ruthlessness." Varga didn't look at him. Her eyes stayed locked on the holomap, where new Dominion movements flared. "That's why they're losing. Hesitation is death." The avian Relin tactician tried again. "If you end this war in hours, the galaxy will never see you as partners. Only as monsters." Varga's voice was level. "Then they'll never forget what monsters can do." The words chilled the room. Hour 5 approaches. The path to the Dominion capital lay open. Human fleets had cut arteries, severed command, and shattered morale. What remained was the final push. On the bridge, Varga stood unmoving, hands clasped behind her back. The weight of a galaxy's gaze pressed against her shoulders, but she did not bend. "Final jump plotted," Hale said. Varga gave the order without hesitation. "Execute." The stars shifted, the universe folding and unfolding in a violent ripple. When the human fleet reappeared, it was already inside the Dominion's most sacred system. The heart of their empire loomed ahead, a fortress world, ringed with defenses that had never fallen. Varga's eyes narrowed. "Begin the last hour." The Dominion capital burned on every holoscreen. Human warships had broken into the system like scalpels through flesh, cutting clean lines of destruction. Orbital rings cracked apart. Shipyards erupted in firestorms. The sky itself seemed to fracture as weapons discharged in overlapping waves. On the bridge of the UNS Resolute, Admiral Elena Varga watched the holomap unfold in layers. Her voice carried no triumph, only direction. Phase 3. Deploy shock battalions. Neutralize their orbital stations. Dropships surged from carriers, their descent flares cutting streaks across the planet's upper atmosphere. Inside, armored soldiers sat silent, helmets sealed, weapons primed. They were the blade behind the fleet's hammer. "Dominion command is fragmented," Commander Hale reported. Signals overlapping. No clear chain of authority. Good, Varga said. Chaos is the battlefield's best ally. Hour 1 of the assault. The perimeter fleets that had guarded the capital for centuries crumbled within minutes. Their formations, built for intimidation, shattered under relentless precision. Each Dominion cruiser died in silence, its destruction calculated to leave wreckage that blocked retreat paths. Across comms, Accord allies gasped at the scale. Some whispered prayers. Others cursed in awe. None moved to interfere. Hour 2. Orbital defenses fired in desperation. Planetary cannons hurled energy bursts into space, catching a few human frigates and blazing arcs. But for every loss, 5 enemy batteries were silenced. Autonomous drones dove into defense grids, sacrificing themselves to tear apart control hubs. Shields collapsing on Northern Hemisphere stations, Hale reported. Varga's reply was as cold as the void. Finish them. Within moments, the stations were gone, nothing but glowing debris raining toward the planet below. On the Accord's command channel, an alien admiral murmured, horrified. You're dismantling an empire in hours. Varga didn't answer. Hour 3. Boarding units struck the largest orbital citadel. Human marines breached corridors and waves, shock rifles spitting bursts that cut through Dominion defenders. Resistance collapsed in pockets. Command nodes fell silent one after another. Varga monitored from orbit. Every casualty was logged, every gain recorded. She did not flinch at the death tallies scrolling across the console. Numbers were the language of war. Citadel secure. A Marine captain's voice crackled over comms. Uploading Dominion archives now. Varga's lips thinned. Send everything. Strip them bare. Hour 4. Overlord Xor entered the battle. His flagship, a behemoth of black steel, surged into the fray with a fleet of survivors clustered around it. The comms erupted with his voice, harsh and booming. Humans! You are vermin who clawed too far from your pit. The stars are not yours. Varga gave no sign she'd heard. Her focus was absolute. Target his escorts first. Isolate the flagship. Cannons roared. Kinetic slugs ripped through Dominion cruisers one by one, tearing their shields apart like tissue. Xor's ship returned fire, unleashing a barrage that tore through 2 human destroyers. Alarms shrieked across the Resolute. For a moment, the bridge trembled under impact. Smoke curled from a ruptured panel. Forward batteries holding, Hale reported, though sweat glistened at his temple. Maintain pressure, Varga ordered. Her voice did not rise, did not waver. Drive him into the kill box. The trap closed. Flanking frigates pinned the flagship, cutting escape vectors. Swarms of drones slammed into its hull, detonating at weak points. Shields flared, cracked, collapsed. On open comms, Xor roared. You are monsters! At last, Varga answered. No. We are survivors. That's why you're losing. Moments later, a rail slug from the Resolute tore through his command bridge. The flagship split apart, a sunburst of fire consuming it. The Overlord's final scream echoed across the galaxy before silence claimed him. Hour 5. The Dominion's homeworld lay defenseless. Human fleets encircled the planet, their weapons locked on military centers, shipyards, and governmental cores. The skies swarmed with drones, each armed, each waiting. The Accord delegates, watching through shared holofeeds, struggled with the sight. One murmured, If they fire, an empire dies in firestorms. Varga stood unshaken, her eyes cold on the sphere below. She opened a wide-channel broadcast. This is Admiral Elena Varga of Earth. Dominion forces are shattered. Overlord Xor is dead. Your fleets are gone. Your defenses lie in ruins. You have one choice left. Surrender now, or your world is ash within the hour. For minutes, nothing came. Then signals flickered through the chaos. Dominion commanders, governors, warlords. Voices once proud, now desperate. We yield. Cease fire. We surrender. One by one, the messages aligned. The Dominion's war machine collapsed, not with glory, but with submission. Aftermath. The Accord Council reconvened hours later. This time, no arguments filled the chamber. Only silence. Delegates stared at the holomap, no longer read, no longer contested. The Dominion's territory lay under Accord control, its fleets annihilated, its capital broken. Some faces shone with relief. Others with terror. The insected Kshar Admiral whispered, 5 hours, they ended what we could not finish in 50 years. The Cyril speaker addressed Varga directly, his voice unsteady. Humanity has saved us. But at what cost to our conscience? You have shown the galaxy a power that terrifies even your allies. Varga's reply was measured, almost quiet. Fear is the only language the Dominion understood. Now they, and you, speak it fluently. A shiver passed through the chamber. The Tuul elder, whose people had suffered most, bowed his head. We live because of them. Call them monsters if you must. But better monsters than corpses. The vote of thanks was half-hearted, heavy with unease. Varga accepted it without expression. She had no illusions. To the Accord, humanity would never be saviors. Only the species that had ended a war in hours, and proved what it meant to survive. Epilogue. In her private quarters aboard the Resolute, Varga stood before the viewport. The Dominion capital hung below, lights flickering across a wounded world. Her reflection stared back at her in the glass, a commander who had ended a war, yet ignited a new conflict, not of fleets and fire, but of trust and fear. The door opened softly. Hale entered, hesitated. Admiral, it's over. No, Varga said, gaze fixed on the stars. The war was over in 5 hours. But humanity's war for acceptance begins now. The silence stretched, vast as the void.